Hey, I'm Delia. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm really glad to have you here. This is a channel for anyone who is interested in art collecting. I talk a lot about why I think art collecting is so relevant and important and exactly how you can do that. Today I wanted to dive into a topic that I reference a lot, which is how the art world has failed. So that is obviously a very incendiary statement. It's for a reason. I really do think that it has failed, and I think that we need urgent response to that. Subverting the art world, kind of flipping it on its head, needs to happen now. So at its core, I believe that art is really for the people, that it is meant to be a resource that people can use in their lives, that is accessible, that helps us process our lived experience, that is just an integrated part of our culture and our day-to-day lives. This is not how it is for most people. Unfortunately, and I think very much by design, the art world has really positioned itself to be a pretty elitist and academic pursuit, which makes it feel really inaccessible and intimidating for the rest of us. So let me give you some examples. I'd like to first start with art museums, which are generally a main entry point for anyone who is going out to learn a little bit about art and appreciate specific pieces or have an opportunity to reflect on their own lives via the art. So if you're going out to go appreciate art, as one does, let's say you're in a new city, you're most often going to go to the art museum. It's just a really great entry point. Walking in to an art museum, it is almost immediately overwhelming for a number of reasons. First of all, most art museums are organized by historical period, which right off the bat means that you need to know what kind of art you're looking for and when it was created, or else you're faced with the very daunting prospect of going through every gallery in an art museum, which is more than a day's worth of work. No one wants to do that. So the expectation right off the bat is that you know what you're looking for, who was making it, what time period they were making it, and that you can go to that floor or that gallery in the art museum and access that information. You can always approach guides and docents, but that's in and of itself a little intimidating for people. And again, if you have no idea what you're looking for in terms of history, it's really difficult to express what you want. Okay, so history is basically how we've organized all museums pretty much across the board. Let's say you have a lot of religious trauma. It is going to be super difficult to navigate a museum having no real sense of which art is highly religious art, religious influences, how you're gonna maneuver that art museum situation. If you're going in for a specific emotional tone or emotional experience, let's say you're grieving or you're wanting to go celebrate something, you can't really approach an art museum with that lens. It's just not accessible. There's really no route that you can take to process your grief through an art museum. It's just, you get what you get. It's historical. That's what it is. Okay, let's say you do either approach it, however you're going to approach it. You walk into a gallery, you don't care what you're looking at, or you ask a guide, you get directions, you enter into a gallery space. It's so intimidating. The floors are loud. Whatever shoes you're wearing are making an epic amount of noise. It's really hushed. It's still, it's a little cool, it's dark. It's got this just overwhelmingly intimidating air about it if you're not comfortable looking at art. And then there's a guard in the corner. You're not really sure what they're doing there. They're watching you. You don't know how close you can get to the art. It's just like this weird sense. You're not really comfortable. You're not really in your skin. You see a little plaque next to a piece of art. Thank God there's some information you can kind of begin to interpret and organize the pieces of information that you're getting and process it in a way that's effective for you. Unfortunately, those plaques usually list things like what schools people studied, schools of influence that people studied under, where they were born, where they were making art, the date, the title, the artist, and that's basically it. You occasionally get little pieces of bio. Sometimes you get bits of inspiration, but usually not. You certainly don't get questions for reflection. You don't get an opportunity to really think through how this piece remains relevant today or how it can be relevant to you specifically in this moment. And even if you were given that, there are very few places to sit and absorb that information. There's like a real rush sense to everything. I don't know if you guys remember this statistic, but there was a crazy study that talked about how few seconds people stand in front of masterpieces. It's brief, a matter of seconds that people walk by things. And I think there are a couple reasons why that's the case. But I think that the sense that you need to move quickly is definitely one of them. That's really unfortunate to me because art happens at a very slow pace. I will say some museums do have seats. It's not usually in front of every piece. I don't think I've ever walked into a museum that it's in front of every piece, but maybe in, every room there's a center bench or something. These seats are usually not that comfortable. They're usually backless. They're pretty hard. You're basically sitting for a brief second, recalibrating and getting up and going. I have this really weird psychosomatic thing that happens every time I walk into an art museum, which is that my lower back hurts almost immediately. I really don't know what the deal is with that. It's some weird thing in my psychology, but it's not a physically comfortable place for me. And me personally, art is deeply intimate. It is so emotional. It is something that I want to experience when I am maximally comfortable and in my skin and at ease. It's not something I want to do in like a high posh, formal setting at all, personally. So museums don't do a great job of reaching normal, everyday people or helping those people really process their lives through the art. It's detached, it's historical, it's academic. It's not really a place for meaningful reflection or an opportunity to see how any lesson that you glean from art can be integrated into your life. So whatever. Okay, if you don't want to go to a museum, your next alternative is typically an art gallery. These are free to enter, so great. That's even more accessible than some art museums. Theoretically accessible. But similar vibe. You walk in, the floors are really loud. The lighting is weird. It's not lighting that you normally would see in your home, for example. It's very spotlighty on the art. There's usually a bunch of people hanging around, kind of waiting for you, it seems like, to buy or make a serious inquiry, which kind of sucks. It makes you feel like you either need to get in and out, pretend like you're going to buy something, or be really upfront with them and say, hey, I'm not here to purchase. I'm just here to look around. Immediately, personally, I come up with questions like, is it okay for me to be here? Am I allowed to occupy this space? Am I wasting these people's time by being in their art gallery when I clearly have no intention of buying anything? Those are my thoughts. I don't know what your thoughts are, but oftentimes gallery owners are really nice. So you're going to tell them, maybe, I'm not here to buy, I just want to browse. Is that okay? They're going to say, of course, I'm going to be over here in this corner. Let me know if you need anything. Okay, fine. So then you go, you wander around. You tend to get much more information on artists in art galleries, in my opinion. You read more extensive bios. There are artist statements available. There's an opportunity to contextualize the artwork, especially if it's contemporary art. You learn a lot more about current events. It's much more rooted in our current day, so that's great. But again, the floors are loud. There's not usually places to sit. Sometimes the art in art galleries can be very conceptual, pretty weird. It can make you feel really uncomfortable, which I think is a great thing. I think it's good to get uncomfortable. I love conceptual art. But if you are walking into it just to kind of gain an understanding of art and dip your toes in and get a little bit more comfortable, not ideal platform for you. Also, the price tags tend to be really astonishing, if they're even listed. And if they're not, the saying, if you need to ask, can't afford it or whatever. So it's uncomfortable. It's like you were immediately aware of who the audience is meant to be. And maybe that's you. Most likely it's not you. It's a really high price point, and it just is an indicator that it's for a small group of people who can afford that. And it just very subtly is going to be kind of a push out the door for you. That's my experience of it. I mean, I'm not to, I think art museums and art galleries are both necessary. I'm very glad that they exist. I think that they offer a lot to cities, and I appreciate the people who curate and work in them. I just think that in terms of accessibility and creating the sense that art is for everyone and that art is a critical resource in our lives, they fail. They really don't do that at all. Okay, so pretty out of reach. Let's talk about what's next. Maybe online galleries. So theoretically really democratic. You can go to a library. You don't even need to own a computer to access online galleries. You can do it from the comfort of your home. You can scroll at your leisure. You're more relaxed. You can be in your pajamas. You can have your journal with you. All these different ways of combating what we just identified and integrating it into your personal life. So that's great, whatever. Unfortunately, it's extremely overwhelming. The sheer quantity of art online is highly overwhelming. And, some galleries have very curated collections. Some don't. They are just basically marketplaces for any and all artists, and it's a lot to sift through. If you find a gallery and their curation is not your style, that's kind of a bummer. If you find an online marketplace and they have 30,000 pages of art to look through, kind of a bummer. It's just really difficult to navigate. And typically these online marketplaces are a little bit more financially accessible. So maybe you are looking to purchase. You want to really bring this experience home, get rid of the institutionalized, the academic components of it, integrate it into your home life. Prices are difficult to find. It's really overwhelming. It is very difficult to find, where an artist is located, what their values are, what their subject matter tends to be. There's a lot that gets kind of shuffled into this very inundated marketplace. So these online stores and galleries have restrictions. I think that they, in a lot of ways, can combat and democratize a lot of the issues that I have presented around the art world. But I still think that there is a lack of opportunity to really integrate what you're taking into your daily life. There's not a lot of reflection. There's not a lot of prompting, deeper inquiry. There are almost no opportunities to actually engage with folks, the artists or the curators. It's a very annoying communication system typically. And again, they are predominantly geared towards purchasing pieces of art. So it's not really necessarily of their interest to help you figure out how to use that art as a medicine in your life. Which really brings me to art consultants. Theoretically, they can really approach, you wherever you're at, help you reflect actual lived values in your life, help you integrate the art into your home and into your life in a really meaningful way, provide background and context, connect you directly with artists, and it happens in the comfort of your home. So breaks down a lot of those barriers to entry. But unfortunately, most art consultants have a minimum art budget of $10,000 and then take about a 10% commission on top of that. So at a minimum, you're looking at $11,000 to spend, which is not an enormous amount of money, but it's also not that accessible. It's really not. And that's not going to get you that much art because most art consultants are really working in mid-career and up artists. So it's limited in and of itself. And I also don't know how many art consultants really do the work of talking about your personal priorities and helping you build out a personal narrative with your art collection. I'm sure some of them do, but it's definitely not marketing that I see from them. So issues with that as well. It's great if you have $11,000 to spend. If you don't, you're kind of doing it on your own, unless you're coming to me. But you're kind of doing it on your own. You're gathering all these additional resources to try to understand how arts appreciation is relevant to you. You're getting books from the library. You're, downloading podcasts. You're doing all these kind of DIY education approaches, which takes so much time, and you really need to give a shit about it and be so invested in it. And it's such a huge time commitment. It's daunting. That is daunting as well. So all around, to get back to my base here, I really do think that the art world has structurally failed to figure out how to connect to normal people on a daily basis in a really meaningful way. And I'm really interested in changing that because I do think that art can be so beneficial to us, again, both culturally and individually, collectively and individually. It's just really rich with all sorts of opportunities for healing and reflection and future envisioning and all of these meaningful, gorgeous aspects. And I think that people deserve to access that. I think that it is our birthright in so many ways. And I just really, with this company, am on such a mission to figure out how I can help connect people to art in an elementary way, in an essential, core to their human kind of way, and help them create these opportunities for reflection that are actually meaningful in their day-to-day life as they move through their home, as they invite guests into their home, as they go to bed, when they wake up, that art can help be a pillar in our lives. And that's what I'm setting out to do. And, I think even the term art consultant, I'm starting to wonder if I should be using that, because that in and of itself comes with mystique and confusion and a little bit of elitism. And so if you have suggestions, please leave me a comment on what I can title myself. But I'm just trying to navigate this and really figure out how I can help people see that art is critical to who we are, that it is totally for the people. And artists will tell you that too, that it is for the people, and that we can, really reclaim it from this very elitist realm that it has been positioned into. So, okay, thanks for watching that. That was a bit of a rant. I appreciate you going along with me. I would love to hear your thoughts. I would love to hear your experiences walking into art museums, your experiences in galleries, your experiences online. If you have found tools that have been helpful for you, just hit me up. I love hearing from you guys.